See, looks like that's up and running. So, looks like streaming out to the the internets. And Rondon, you're saying that you're still looking at 3D printers, and it's complex. Yeah, it can be. If I think you were talking about you wanted something that's like a larger print area, uh, that isn't gonna break your bank, and so I think you probably can't go wrong with the Prusa machine. Either that or the well, I could tell you what you should make is you should be 3D printing your own firearms is what you should be doing. Um, and it's a pretty fun thing to start doing for yourself. So just to have it for that reason is a good idea, I think, in my mind. Which does bring up a point that earlier today, one of the guys I follow that's in that realm is having some issues with the old YouTube because they don't like people talking about that stuff now. And his name is Print PSR is his YouTube channel, Print Sheet Repeat, and he recently did a
Warning,
video.
the content you're about to see is for entertainment purposes only.
He recently did a video about how he's got multiple strikes and YouTube has taken down some of his videos on 3D printed gun material.
YouTube has forced me.
3D printed firearms material, and YouTube is talking about how he's violating their terms, which he's not, giving anybody the instructions or showing the instructions on his channel. So, but that is happening. So now he's posting all those videos on Rumble and Odyssey, I believe, talking about the 3D printing of that. So that's the idea there. So yeah, Rondon, I think that's probably the best application I would say, is at least far as like personal liberty concerns and things like that. Uh, so that's one great reason for getting a 3D printer in my mind. And then the other thing is that you probably will never have to ever buy anyone a gift again. Because you could just print them a gift of some kind. It's kind of like, I put the time into doing this, and I made this for you, and there's something that you can keep in mind for that. I mean, there's just so many possibilities. If you go on like Thingiverse or something like that and just kind of look through their library of all the things that have been created that you could use for 3D printing, it's pretty wild on all the things that you can do there. And you'd be surprised at like some of the stuff that could be really useful. Like one of the first things that I printed off of there was something that could hold my phone, and so that I can like set it up and watch videos. And then another thing I wanted to build was like uh, basically it's like an arm, like the microphone stand right here, where I could put a phone in there and then kind of like watch movies while you're laying down somewhere or something like that, so you don't have to hold the phone and hold it up. So those are a couple of things, but then you get into all kinds of other stuff that you can do with it, like coat racks, or like little, small shelves, like tool organizer shelves, or hardware. You can put your different hardware for your tools and stuff in there. So So things like that you could do. I also saw today that looks like the old there's missiles being lobbed into Poland right now, which is pretty crazy. That came across my Twitter feed there, and all the fun stuff happening with Elon there on Twitter is pretty interesting. We have the collapse of this FTX exchange and all of the kind of connections that were going into there is really interesting. There was a story with Doug Casey had somebody on today on Doug Casey's take um, that they were talking about some of the background of what happened with this FTX exchange and kind of what I gathered was that they were using the customers' funds to do certain things, which is a big no-no when you're talking about exchanges. And then apparently these guys were big donors to uh, the Democrats, and supposedly some money from that went to like Ukraine or to Zelensky or something like that. So so that was an interesting video to watch and kind of see what's going on there. Uh, More exchanges going under. Yeah, I mean for a long time. I mean, so that's the whole point of crypto. That was part of what these guys were talking about as well. Is like uh, after this happened, of course, the government's, at least the United States government's, going to want to regulate, probably going to want to regulate crypto more. We recently had the SEC make the determination, or the courts make the determination on the library token recently, saying that the library token is now considered a security. And the whole, to me, the whole point of cryptocurrencies is that it's a decentralized uh, network that is a trustless network. They don't have to have a third party that you're putting your trust in to use the currency. Um, so that's, the purpose to me is that it's permissionless, and you don't need a trusted third party to use crypto. So um so Rondon, you're saying, yeah, fractional reserve stuff works with fiat much better than it does with auditable public ledgers. Yeah. So to me, crypto's got to get back to that. Is permissionless, no third party, not your keys, not your crypto. Those that have been in the space for a long time know that. Uh, People that are new to the space, a lot of these people that were in the FTX exchange, I believe, were retail investors, just regular folks, I believe. And that's kind of a hard lesson to learn for people, but to get burned. But a lot of times that's people don't learn until they get some kind of bad consequences happening. So keep your crypto off centralized exchanges, and you know make it more peer to peer. Mine your own. It's not necessarily very possible with Bitcoin, but there are mining pools, I know, and there are a lot of people to do peer to peer transactions with too. So, um, but yeah, I like that. Not all educations are free. Exactly. Yeah, it's kind of an alchemy thing. Like there needs to be an equivalent exchange, and you really have to get your feet wet and kind of go through some trials before you really understand something. So, So that's what it's all about. But look, they're trying to do they're because of this ruling sets a precedent now in the United States with cryptocurrencies, and probably more of these are going to um, come under scrutiny now. So with decentralized finance and decentralized exchanges, things like that, you can't stop crypto from doing its thing, even if you try to regulate it. So so it's not going away. And there was something else that was related to this that came out today. Um, Sorry, I'm just kind of skipping my head. But while I'm thinking about that,
This video is a thank you, but it also has a special.
I shared that last week. I want to share this video with you guys from Nick Ferguson, and his talking about the apocalypse food system that you can implement. And one of the things that I think is super important about his presentation here was talking about how you can turn your hobby into make your
All
hobby
right,
pay
guys. Before we
make your hobby pay for itself. So that's a super positive thing to talk about. A lot of all this stuff costs money to go set up, your gardens, and buy all the infrastructure for livestock and things like that. But if you can have some kind of product that you can sell that would offset all those costs for your capital investment in all your infrastructure, that's a great way to go. And over the long haul, being able to produce everything that you're gonna need to keep those animals alive and keep them healthy and thriving, that over the long term, that those are all very very good investments for yourself and for future generations that would utilize the land that you're on. And our society is such a impermanent society. We really don't have those projections into the future. The kind of the way that people set up their lives and their properties and things like that is very impermanent, right? It's like, not really planning to put roots down anywhere, kind of always moving around. Everybody's properties kind of look the same kind of manicured lawns, and things that are really only temporary, because they're not meant to create uh, any type of stability for the future of being able to just live in your local environment. you know it's so weird that we live on a planet that produces such abundance and has the capability of producing such abundance, and we're really, as a society of humans, really are squandering that, because we have the capability of being the stewards of this earth and doing some cool stuff with that. And so this video right here talks a lot about how we can make that happen. How Nick has been doing this stuff for a long time. He's got his own homestead. He came out to my family's property and my little piece of property that I have, and did a consultation with us for a permaculture consultation, where basically walks with you on your land and tells you, how you could set up your lands and your permaculture design for your property, things that you can grow that would do well for you, and then, kind of help you create that vision in your mind and kind of give you a roadmap on where to go. And Nick Ferguson, for a long time now, he has been talking about how you can use these fodder trees as feed for your animals, and that this is actually an old system that folks used to utilize a lot before we started to become industrialized as humanity. And the farmers that they were using what they were calling tree hay for a long time, because these certain trees have a high percentage of protein in their leaves, and things like there's a hybrid poplar, a hybrid willow, and a um, white mulberry tree that have a really high percentage of protein in their leaves, and it makes good feed for ruminant animals. So he has a website called rareplantstore.com, and he has some trees that he goes out and um, they're growing all these trees, and they ship them out, and he's got some different packages for all that stuff. And let me share that website with you guys. But we have been buying trees from him for the past few seasons, and planted a ton of trees from Nick Ferguson, and he does a really good job at growing these trees and getting them distributed out for you. And this is part of having the ability to, as food costs go up, and all this stuff for feed for animals, and all that kind of stuff. I think what Nick Ferguson has been talking about for so long here, about using these fodder trees, is going to be super important for folks going into the future here. So his picks there, yeah, is a hybrid poplar, a hybrid willow, and white mulberry are his top picks, and those aren't just the only ones that he's talking about. Um, you also have things like kudzu, which is super high in protein. You can see it as a pest plant, or you can use it to your benefit. Especially if you have livestock. And then, if you do have a lot of grass, that the livestock, basically considers, why have equipment and things like that to mow the grass when you can have, some, automated animals that take care of your lawn for you. So, make that your automation. And so I think that's pretty cool when you think about it. When you think about it that way, you know what I'm saying? So, so yeah, let me play a little bit of this video for you guys. And some of the cool stuff that he talks about in here is that you can raise these insects with your animals to help with your feed costs for the animals. So, especially if you're raising chickens or some kind of meat bird, like quail or something like that. And so he gets into that as well, talking about how you can set up this system to compost your manure from rabbits into this worm composting bin, and then also utilizing these black soldier fly larvae. And the insects are a good source of protein for your chickens. so they can get that what they need out of that from this system. So let me share some of this stuff, some of his presentation here for you guys, and then we'll get into it. We'll talk about it here in a minute. So here we go.
All right. So we're talking about the second phase here. Um, we talked about if times get tough or even if they don't, we want to make sure we are able to feed our animals both kinds of scenarios. We went over when times are good, if we're on the matrix route, we're still feeding just all the pellet feed from the grain elevator. It's easy, it's cheap, it's convenient, but it sets us up for disaster. The better way is to start transitioning to sustainable practices that we can feed our animals exclusively from our own property. That's a really important thing. This segment we're going to be talking about insect production, protein for birds. We're going to talk about black soldier flies, earthworms, and dubia roaches and mealworms. So, with insects for feed, the best bugs I found, my number one is black soldier fly. They are an excellent source of protein and fat for your birds. They reproduce like crazy, and they automatically harvest themselves. So if you're smarter than a grub, you can get these suckers to harvest themselves into a bucket. If you have too many of them, oh no, dry them and store them for later. You can always freeze them if you want to. Earthworms. I would put earthworms as kind of my number two. Number two because they're so simple and easy. And you can set them up. Both black soldier fly larvae and earthworms, you could actually set up in an automated feeding type situation where you have rabbits directly over top of the bins, and you could have some really good synergistic production right there. Earthworms just pretty easy. Lots of information online about them. You probably already heard about them. Dubia roaches, you might not have ever heard about those unless you keep something like a bearded dragon. So the reptile enthusiasts will often raise these to feed their reptiles. They breed like roaches. These do not fly, which is very nice, and they're very heavy-bodied, so they don't climb out of things if you have slick sides to your bins. So they look cool. They're again very high protein, high fat, fantastic insect for your animals. Mealworms, probably bottom of this list, just because normally they're a little bit more persnickety about their feed source and environmental conditions. But they're another one that if you get good at it and you have access to some good feed to feed them, they can be another really good one. So we're going to talk about black soldier flies. We've got the adult here on the left, and we got some grubs on the right. The adults, they look like those black dirt dauber wasps. They mimic them to convince other aerial predators to not eat them because they're dangerous and stingy, except they're not. They don't have mouth parts. They do not sting. They just look a little bit threatening. All they do is they search for a mate. They do that song and dance. They lay eggs, and then they die. That's pretty much it. What we're looking for are the larvae. So we've got an adult. They only live for a week and a half. They just mate, lay eggs. 320 to 620 eggs from one mating. They hatch in about 4 days. The larval stage depends on temperature and how much food they have. They will go through that in 10 to 50 something days. This is 5 different instars. That's just the fancy word for development phases of their life. And then the pre-pupal stage, 7 to 10 days, they don't feed. What they do in this phase is they migrate to a dry site. They migrate away from the feed. So if you have a nice big bin with a whole bunch of food for them. All these are going to be eaten, eaten, eaten. And then when they get to this age, they say, time to get out of here. They start crawling away. You got some ramps on the side. They'll crawl around and crawl away. They'll hit the wall and they follow the wall because they're stupid. They just follow the wall and go right up the ramp and right up the ramp and then down the little trap hole right into a 5-gallon bucket that you have waiting for them. And they will harvest themselves. When they are done eating, they're ready to turn into an adult. You can just take a handful of these and toss them out, and they'll turn into adults and make more eggs for you and make more feed. Here are some pictures. This is a poured concrete bin. Very nice. You see the ramp on the side? If they circle around, they're going to keep circling around and hit this ramp and go right up and out. I don't like how these are on the side. We'll see a picture of them right there. I don't like how they're on the side. You can see all this. They've been climbing up this. I would probably coat this concrete in an epoxy paint, 2-part epoxy, to get a little bit slicker so they don't climb up it. You're probably always going to have that going on, but at least if you epoxy coat it, you're not going to have nearly as much of a stench issue, and you'll be able to handle some of that a little bit better. And I would prefer seeing these down here, at least at an angle, or have that platform a little bit further out.
So the reason I really like this black soldier fly larva is there's no input you really have to make. If you just kind of set this bin up in a way that you just get your stuff composting in this bin and set it up to collect the larva, having the ability to catch the larva, that you just kind of can continuously harvest them, and it's not really going to matter the stuff you put in there. It's just and you don't have to buy any inputs whatsoever for getting that going. You just need to start composting in a bin. So yeah, why the soldier fly's got to be black? Because we're racist. The funny thing, kind of getting off topic there a little bit, but it kind of got me thinking about something I heard recently, was that it was a story about how things have gotten so woke that somebody was filming inside of a library or something like that, and that somebody came up to him and told him to stop filming. And I think the person just responded that he identified as a camera, and the lady that told him to stop filming just backed down. So, you can always use these like Jedi mind tricks, because it's like these people have a fatal flaw in that you can't you've got to be inclusive for everyone, right? So yeah, that's probably where it's going. It's kind of going to destroy itself because there's no solid principles that you're sitting there on. And it can just basically be whatever anyone wants the rules to be. And you can't change the rule. I mean, you've got to be inclusive, right? You've got to be you've got to be a nice person. You've got to be inclusive of everyone and their kinks and their fetishes and everything, because that's that's how this whole woke stuff goes. And yeah. So your mom has started winning arguments at the hospital by telling people they aren't following the science. You're a science denier. Yeah, I mean, science is just turned into this word. This is like this enigmatic word that's just somebody throws out the word science, and okay, well, we've done the science, and so now it's good. So as long as you put the word science in there, that they're doing science and science things are happening. It's turned into one of these terms where it's like nobody really understands what that means, and it's just some kind of magical term to gloss over. Not actually looking into anything or asking the questions that you need to ask about our reality, and to be aware of what's actually happening and going on, and to find the truth, to seek the truth, I believe would be what all scientists are really interested in, is figuring out, well, what's the concepts and actual principles that work here. And I'm not going to stop until I find some kind of empirical evidence that I can repeat and give me some kind of better understanding of reality. And to me, that's the true science, or the scientific method. And that's really what we're talking about when we talk about science. I would say is really just a method of figuring out what's getting closer to truth. It's a method of being able to create a hypothesis, and maybe you understand somewhat in some certain things about a principle, and based on that understanding, you're creating a hypothesis to say, okay, well, this is what I think is going on here. These are the concepts and principles that I understand, and I'm going to make basically an educated guess to say this is how I believe that the results will come out because of my previous understanding, and then you set up an experiment to say, okay, well, I need to test that hypothesis now. Is what I believe is reality, is actual reality? Can I test that, and can I put that in an experiment that I can repeat and figure out if I was wrong or if I was right on that principle? And so that's what comes to my mind when I think about science, but it's not the general use of the term in my opinion. It's just one of those things where people kind of give a lot of that thinking away to others, saying that some expert or scientist out there has done the science, and they're really into the science, and they love the science, and so they're going to do sciencey things in a sciencey way, and and they've got all those sciencey answers. So that's me being silly about that, but to my reality and the way I look at things, that's what's going on. It's just a big word show, and a word misunderstanding right there. But he talks about three other insects here. He talks a little bit about how you can do this with mealworms, and that method is a little bit more labor involved than the mealworm method here. This looks probably like the most practical method for the black soldier fly larva, especially for somebody that's just getting started farming and is also doing something else. You've got a day job of some kind, some other different ways that you're earning income that's not farming, building some kind of farm product. I think this is a really good solution for folks. He's going to talk about a couple others. One being the mealworms. He covered the earthworms there for a little bit, and he's going to cover another one, which is a type of roach, and people buy these roaches for bearded dragons, to feed to bearded dragons. And so this is the part of the presentation where he was saying that there's an opportunity available for that, because there are folks that raise these bearded dragons, and they're consistently being sold out of these roaches. And so if roaches don't freak you out that bad, and you don't mind handling roaches and stuff like that, that there's a profit potential there. with those guys. So they're called the Dubia Roach, the Dubia Roach. So I'm going to skip ahead to maybe show a little bit of that, and you know, him talking about that opportunity a little bit. So let's hear what he's got to say about that.
They were actually right next to the bed at one point, like 4 feet away from the bed. She's pretty amazing. These are also pretty amazing. Man, look them up. Let's talk about why you might want to consider raising these, even if times are not tough. If you can stomach the idea of dealing with these jokers, we've got pairs here. 50 pairs. 50 males and 50 females. How much? Look at this. What does this say? Email me when back in stock. They sell out.
They have an installment program.
Yes, they freaking sell out. You know what it means if they're selling out? The market is not being met. You go to almost all of these online retailers for these, and they'll have some, but they'll almost always be sold out of these bigger packages. Exactly. You take these to any pet store, they'll be like, take my money. Okay? All right, here we go. 10 females and 4 males. 10 and 4. 14 freaking roaches for $25. I don't know.
Probably not.
65 freaking roaches, $100. Are you getting the picture here? $200 for 130 dang roaches. They look very different. This is as simple as the breeding setup needs to be, as complicated as it needs to be. Some egg cartons, some roaches, something to collect the frass, a little bit of water source. It can be something as simple as a potato or some slices of orange. They love this stuff. I feed monkey chow to mine. And you just set them up in there. You need some ventilation in the sides to get a little bit of humidity out of there. And they just do their thing. They kind of breed like roaches. Mealworms. You don't let them out. Keep the lid on them. If it gets too humid, they will be able to climb up the sides. So what I do is I take some talcum powder and I rub talc powder on the top 4-6 inches or so, and I'll try and keep. I'll try and only use bins that are really slick. I'll use the clear ones, and then I use hot glue gun and some window screen for the sides to get some ventilation. Yep.
So yeah, I thought that was really interesting, and then he'll also talk a little bit about this mealworms one coming up here in a second. But
Mealworms.
I will. I'll play that there in a second, and I wanted to queue up this other video here. We still want to talk about this one for a little bit, but I want to queue that one up. So give me a second here. And let me work on that. Uncle Bonehead can hear now. That's great. Glad you're here, man. Glad you figured it out. So I have been going down a Pauly Shore rabbit hole as well recently, and I'll tell you what, man. Pauly Shore cracks me up. He's got this funny podcast. It's called Random Rants with Pauly Shore. And I'll pick out one that I think is pretty funny. But yeah, I don't understand why I was getting into Pauly Shore. I guess I realized I didn't know a whole lot about his backstory. But when I heard that his mom was the person that ran the Comedy Store, That was like the big place where a lot of the, all of the modern comedians, like, you had like Robin Williams and Jim Carrey and this guy Andrew Dice Clay and Sam Kinison and Richard Pryor and like Jay Leno and David Letterman and like all the comedians that ended up, taking over the culture, all came from the Comedy Store out there. And so I've kind of been going down a Polly Shore rabbit hole recently, and part of that rabbit hole was to find his podcast, the Random Rants with Polly Shore. And so I have been thoroughly enjoying the random rants, because he's basically like taking everybody off guard. Like if they hadn't watched this podcast, they like kind of are in for a treat, because they're getting moved from like part of the house to a different part of the house, and he's got different cameras set up in different places. So let me see. This was 3 days ago, and this is the one that I wanted to share with you guys, because this is where they're talking about in this episode. They talk about how to make these certain type of crystal batteries, which is something that could be picked up by people, because it's using very common items that you can find from basically your local grocery store, I believe, talking about some of the principles, or at least these guys' hypothesis to the phenomenon on what's going on, and how these crystal batteries are generating a usable electric energy. And so the description of how to create these batteries is shared in part of this episode, and they're going to, I hope, continue this series. And Andreas Exertus, I believe he's got some ways that you can get in contact with him as well. Through his channels, and I think he's got a website with contact page and everything like that. So they were talking about how getting a lot of people involved in doing these experiments and actually building, trying to replicate the batteries, these crystal batteries that they're creating. So I think if you're interested in that kind of thing, that's definitely an episode to watch, because it is really fascinating on some of the subjects that they cover in here. Talking underwater, that's not good. That might be because the heater is turned on over here, and the fan just kicked on. So if that is the case and that's coming through over the mic, then that's probably why you're hearing that sound. But if that's the case, let me cue up more of that last video. I just posted the link for this other video about the old energy crystal battery discussion. I just threw that in the chat, and it's okay. It's you. All right. My bad. But I was gonna say I was gonna play this video, and then I would turn off that AC. But if everything sounds good, I'll just keep on rolling. So You guys got that? Let's play this little section on apocalypse proof food freedom by Nick Ferguson. This was a presentation he made at uh, Jack Spirko's latest workshop that he does. And let's see, did I already post Doug Casey's take? Yes, I did. Yes, I did indeed. So, what I wanted to look up here is Shore's random rants. Rants. So let me find this. I just want to find maybe one of those random rant things to share part of it with you guys because it really cracked me up. What is Random Rants podcast? Here it is. There we go. And then see one where is a good example of what he does. This is not that good, but okay. All right, I'll play this one for you guys because this is the one that I think is really hilarious. But let me get back to that presentation there on the apocalypse proof food freedom. If we're good. Oh, cool, man. What's up, JP? You're writing a 12-page paper about permaculture for grad school policy class. Grad school? What are you doing grad school for, man? You on page 6. Oh man, but permaculture is where it's at. I mean, the principles of permaculture is what will probably lead to that 7 generations of making the earth a better place for everybody. U.S. Food Sovereignty Alliance. I'll have to check that out. Let's see. All right. Let me play this part here for you.
I'm sure everyone has heard about mealworms. They're supposedly a really good human food source. I'm not about that. Here are the kind of life cycles. They'll pupate. They look kind of like weird aliens. And then this is what the adult looks like. It's a beetle. Okay. This is as simple as the setup can be. These are concrete mixing tubs. You know those black mixing tubs out here that the ducks get their water from? That's what these are. It's just a rack. You've got a little bit of substrate in there, and the worms go on top. Can
you guys see that? I'm probably not even showing the screen. And there we go. Let's do that again.
You'll put beetles in one. What they'll do is they'll have a very fine meshed hardware cloth, and they'll put all the beetles in that hardware cloth, and they'll lay it on top of the bedding, and they'll sprinkle a little bit more bedding on top, and they'll go through there and they'll eat and they'll lay eggs, and then you lift that screen up and shake it, and it keeps all the beetles in the screen, and you move them to the next one. It leaves all the eggs behind. And so those eggs are all within a certain age range, so they all develop at the same time. You feed them out, and then when they're ready to harvest, you scoop them all out, sift them out, and use them. And it's very systematic, very easy to do, and you could start with this stuff in a shoebox under your bed. They make no smell. They're very simple and easy. You can feed mealworms rabbit manure. We're talking about raising willow and white mulberry to feed our rabbits, and we can take what the rabbits make and feed them to mealworms. Now, you can't do that exclusively because these actually absorb quite a bit of moisture, and like I talked about with the mealworms, I said they're very temperamental. If it gets too moist and moldy, they'll die. So, typically, people keep them on wheat bran. I don't like the idea of being tied to a grain product because then I'm tying myself back into that system. However, that might be something to help you in the interim period. Like I said, it's all right to be using those pellets, but let's not make our whole dependence based on grain elevators. You say, but they're gross. We've got Ramsey here. They're absolutely disgusting. I say, who cares? But did you die? And that's kind of the question. If we are designing something to create sustainability in our lives, and the boogeyman that we've got to deal with is some gross bugs once a week, yeah, quit whining. This guy would love for you to eat these bugs. Um, we've got a
Just eat the bugs, and you'll own nothing, and you'll be happy. So, yeah, he's talking about raising these bugs, and yeah, you'd have to, um, you know, might have to deal with some bugs, man. But it's there for helping you out, to keep your food sovereignty. Um, what JP's saying, amphetamines. Maine has a good food sovereignty ordinance, protects local government, stopping them from growing food locally, and it protects locals' right to trade and sell it. Okay, cool. I mean, dude, it's becoming a big issue because these folks are attacking people that are doing things like private membership associations, like Amos Miller, the Amish guy that got the heat came down on that dude. Let me see if I can look up that story. It's Amos Miller, I believe. Unless I'm totally off base on that. Who was an Amish farmer that they went after. And let me see if I can bring up Joel Salatin's. We'll see Joel Salatin's take on Amos Miller case here. Let me throw this video into the chat. But yeah, man, this whole thing is becoming ridiculous, completely ridiculous. Like, you cannot come after somebody that's being peaceful and trying to grow his own food and food for his community on his own land. This is completely ridiculous. Yeah, I believe that Amos Miller's from Pennsylvania. So let's hear what Joel Salatin's take is on that for a minute here.
Last week on Fox News, I think it was Monday night last week. So it's been 1 week ago that it was on Tucker Carlson, which of course vaulted it into really, really national prominence. And of course, I've known Amos Miller for decades. It seems like a long, long time. It breaks your heart what's happening to him. But he made a fatal flaw, Cena. He made a fatal flaw, and the flaw was signing the judge's cease and desist order from a year ago. So if we could back up a minute, Amos has a personal membership association. It's called a PMA, Personal Membership Association. These are popping up all over the country. So there are things where if Amos goes down, it's going to set bad precedent for a lot of people that are trying to mimic some of the things that he's done. But one of the problems with Tucker Carlson's coverage the other night was that it was just the typical sensational USDA's going after Amishmen. Why can't Biden go after somebody that's a real criminal and not send gumshoes after an Amishman? But legal issues like this, as you know, they're never just cut and dried. There's always some sort of thing going on. And so what Amos has crafted for himself is what's called a personal membership association. It's the basis of numerous farm to consumer interfaces now around the country. It's one of those loopholes. It's modeled after the country club, the golf country club, which is not public. In other words, if a private golf club wants to exclude somebody, you can't just walk into a private country club and say, "Hey, I want to play 18 holes." There are rules. I mean, from dress rules to dues paying rules, all sorts of things. And so these are non-public, and therefore courts have ruled forever that these do not have to comply with, for example, the Americans with Disabilities Act. They do not have to comply with that. They don't have to comply with numerous things that public places would have to comply with. And don't read into this. I'm not opposed to helping handicapped people. Don't read into this. But it is important to understand that the PMA, the Personal Membership Association, is very much considered a non-public entity. It is a private group of people. That's what Amos has. He has a personal membership association. Well, the USDA came in on him, and it's big. He's got like 4,000 families. It's one of the biggest ones in the country, and he's been at it a long, long time. Well, the USDA came in and they pierced that of the PMA and accused him of selling. They said, "You don't really have a personal membership association. This is a facade, a charade. You're really a retail store, and you're selling meat and poultry that is not inspected by a government inspector." Now, you got to realize that these inspection laws are pretty ubiquitous and eclectic through the system. You can't sell a pork chop unless it's been inspected by a government agent. That's what our country has come to. Even to a neighbor, to somebody at church, even to a longtime friend, it's illegal. All right, and of course, Cena and I are both adamant that should not be the case, but it is the case right now.
All right, so yeah, I mean, there you go. That's part of what happened to Amos Miller there. Let's look at. Looks like there's an update
Thanks,
video
Cena.
there.
Yes, there is.
Amos Miller case update, and then it looks like this is from one month ago. In October is an update on Amos Miller's case here.
There's a positive update. We left you last time discussing his plight. Amos Miller is his name if you're following the story. He has a personal membership association club, services about 4,000 families, and was facing jail time and a $300,000 fine for not complying with a judge's cease and desist order that he signed, unfortunately. And we noted at the time that a lot of his problem has been simply because he hasn't had legal counsel. He's had a judge-appointed attorney, and of course, this judge-appointed attorney probably eats at McDonald's every day, has no clue about food choice, food freedom, any of these issues. And so he's gotten very, very bad legal counsel and signed some documents actually that have exacerbated his problem instead of helping him his problem. Well, we're really, really happy to announce that attorney Robert Barnes is going to has come aside and is going to represent him, and head up a legal team that's going to have some real stars on it. Robert Barnes, if you'll uh, click back in your memory, he was the lead attorney for the Kyle Rittenhouse defense. Kyle Rittenhouse was the young 18-year-old who went to Waukesha, Wisconsin, was attacked by the BLM folks there and shot and killed one of them, wounded another one, and of course, he's been vilified in the media and every place else, and Robert Barnes was his defense attorney and was able to show that it was self-defense, that it was perfectly logical for the and so this guy is he's no slouch. Um, he was the counsel for Wesley Snipes, the the guy who had a tax problem. Um, I'm trying to think and so here's what he says about the Amos Miller case. He says this case is bigger and beyond one farmer in the Amish community. It's about what can you farm and what do we eat, and do we control that, or is it the government? He's already gotten so Miller was scheduled for a court hearing when we left you last in mid-September, and and that's already been changed. You can just sense the tone of things are changing already with this aggressive defense attorney coming into the case. The judge is starting to back up a little bit, and in fact, Barnes has another little development in the case is that the state is trying to also now bring in and indict Amos Miller's wife, Rebecca, because she co-owns the land that the Millers farm. And so here's what. So there's another attorney that's joined, New Jersey-based lawyer Bradford Geyer. He's also been added to the defense team, and these are both very high-profile attorneys. And Geyer said for much of the last year, Amos Miller has been without counsel, acting pro se and non-party. Unrepresented, Rebecca Miller has not been a party to the case. Defendants retained undersigned counsel recently for this matter, filing a motion to appear pro. Boy, these are legal terms. These all this Latin pro hoc vice in this matter, and needs time to effectively represent the defendants. In addition, it is counsel's understanding productive negotiations are underway that may fully resolve this matter. So it may be with this new kind of super team on his side that the whole court thing kind of dissolves. There's a negotiated settlement, and the whole thing goes away. So anyway, not to belabor the point, but many of us have been really watching this case, and it's exciting to see some real positive movement and change for the Amos Miller case. He is right now, I think, in the nation, he is representative as the point man for this battle over personal membership associations, which are kind of the new darling right now of the food choice circumvention movement, and so this is going to test that, and we'll see where it goes. So we'll keep you posted on the Amos Miller case as things progress. There is a large kind of a fundraiser shindig being planned right now for him. They've asked me to come and be the kind of the lead off for that, and I have agreed to, of course, totally gratis, pro bono for me. This is an issue that needs our attention, and it looks like it's being planned right now for spring sometime. They wanted to pull it off before this, but with this fast moving change now with legal counsel, it takes a little bit of pressure off. And so they're hoping to do some sort of a shindig sometime in the spring. We'll keep you posted. Thank you for your interest. And believe me, this is just as the attorney said. This is the point issue right now for food freedom in the U.S. Hi, everybody. To watch the full episode.
All right, so that was very good because that I had no idea what was the update on what was going on with that case with Amos Miller, and so um, that's a pretty good little video and update on his case there. Oh man, what are you guys talking about here? Let's see. Bigger than just food, though, it's a long-term sustainability, health, and sanity. Regions where most humans live are sick and dying fast. Yeah. We'll see it, Uncle Bonehead. I see that you had to go because something's going on with your internet. Let's see. What is Rondon had to go help a streamer. Considering bandwidth for porn for Uncle Bonehead. Oh man. Well, let's see here. When you do bring that up, though, JP, it does make me think about looking at Starlink. I was looking at Starlink recently and looking at the prices of Starlink, and it looks like they have this option now for RVs. Because initially I didn't think that they had this capability, but recently I was looking at their website, and I saw that they did have something for an RV, which is pretty interesting. So, because I didn't think that that was a possibility previously, but now it looks like that they can do that. So, there is $135 a month coverage with a one-time hardware cost of $600. So, I mean, that's pretty expensive internet, but if it's super high speed and low latency on the go, it would be pretty interesting. So let's look at what the coverage is on that, though. So I guess they got three different colors here. With dark blue meaning no coverage. And so it looks like Starlink is got high capacity more in the western part of the United States, and maybe a lower capacity in the east, and then just maybe a very small area of no coverage. Maybe something like that. So that might be a possibility if you've got like uh, an RV, if you're traveling, if you're out on the go and you're just traveling the country, and depending on where you land, and you'll just always have your internet on your RV. So that's pretty cool. What's going on? JP, no studies. Here's something interesting. No studies in academic databases on modern urban development. Everyone doing research is basically saying we do it all wrong. The articles basically all say we need to stop mowing and paving. I think the cool thing would be do it all wrong. The articles basically all say we need to stop mowing and paving. doing research, basically saying do it all wrong. I mean, yeah, I like the idea of growing gardens instead of lawns, man. Like a lot of folks had gardens, like victory gardens. People that came back from World War II, and like almost everybody had like a victory garden, and it was part of your yard. Yeah, you had your garden, and then it was part of your yard, and everybody had them. But there's just a lot of the urban, with all the urban development, you get more and more concrete. Uh, than gardens with like probably different microclimates. You kind of get different microclimates when you have like garden and stuff like that. But yeah, there is a specific heat effect of cities that I am aware of, where if you're in a city because of all that mass of concrete, which is just a lot of thermal mass, that it actually dissipates that heat slowly over time, over the night, and so you actually get a heat rise effect in a lot of the cities where there is a lot of concrete and all that kind of stuff. But I am aware of that. But let's see if what I can show you guys to maybe wrap things up here in a little bit. But let me first play this little part of the Polly Shore podcast, so you guys can kind of see the craziness that goes on this thing. It's so wild, man. It's pretty funny. Let me see if I can go all the way back here to where it starts. But let me pull that up for you. Yeah, let's do this for a second and check this out with Polly Shore.
Oh well, bud.
What rand number is it, dude? Like this. Say it in Korean. Say it in Korean. Okay. I like you guys. You're my friends still, dude.
So yeah, he's got stuff. He's got music playing and he's got people dancing. He's like hired these people to come in and do that. And then so he brings on his guest, is Harlan Williams here.
Wow.
What's going on? Look at this.
Wait for the thing. Put the red carpet up. Wait.
Beautiful.
You're a star, Harlan. You're a star.
I'm from Toronto.
You're a star, Harlan. Bill, wait, back up. Take pictures of him. Take
Oh,
pictures.
wow. Whoa, paparazzi. Holy. Yoda-Otzi.
Yeah, superstar.
Wow.
Look at him.
Oh, my
He's a
God.
superstar.
Wow.
Yes. Wow.
Unbelievable.
Don't do any crazy stuff. You'll get in the tabloids.
Wow, bro.
All right, give it up
Dude.
for Harlan. Yeah,
What
Chinese.
a treat. What a treat.
That's good. Thank you. This is
Bro.
good. Here we are.
Bro, this is what a house. Dude.
All right, cut the music. This is
Dude.
my good buddy Harlan Williams. We met a couple years ago, and now he's my good friend.
I think I stepped on some dog shit in the kitchen. What is that?
No, there's no dog. There's a muskrat in there.
Oh, there's
Oh,
a loaf
man.
of poo on the floor.
Yeah. A lot of people know Harlan Williams from a lot of different films,
Yeah.
and he's also traveling as a stand-up comic all
That's
over
right.
America.
For reals.
Yeah,
for reals.
yeah,
for reals, bro.
What the fuck was that?
I just heard
dude?
somebody.
No, that's okay.
Somebody needs a life alert back there because somebody's fallen, and I don't think I heard them get up. Did you?
I didn't hear that. Not that so funny, Chinese.
They should have them where you
I'm
puke.
not Chinese. I'm a Korean.
Oh shit! I
that
thought
was
she was
her.
Filipino.
No, that was her line.
She's definitely Filipino.
So Harlan Williams.
Yeah.
So you were texting me. You said something about the Zika virus. What'd you say?
No, well, all the viruses.
Yeah. What were you saying?
Well, we got like the Zika.
Right.
And then we had SARS.
Right.
And now we got the Corona, bro.
Coronavirus.
I was in a bar the other night. I just wanted a drink, and I
Right.
yelled to the waitress. I was like, Corona! And the whole place cleared, brah. Unbelievable. I put them out of business. BJ's shut the doors because of me.
Yeah.
You been to BJ's? Probably.
Where's BJ's at?
Between you. So the other thing is, with this coronavirus.
Wait, real quick, before we continue.
Yeah, what?
Hey, Dave, how's the framing? Because this is the first time we framed it this
Oh,
way.
wow.
Dave?
Yeah, the
So it's just wild, man. It's pretty funny. I highly recommend it. It's Pauly Shore's new Pauly Shore's podcast, Random Rants podcast. It's not that new, but it's new to me, and I thought it was pretty funny. So there you go. There's Pauly Shore's podcast if you want to go check that out. And let's finish it up with maybe a little bit of this discussion on these crystal batteries and how you might be able to get involved with this if this is something that you might be interested in. It's something that I am looking to pursue myself, so I was going to reach out to the guys that are doing this work and see if I could get involved with it. And at least in attempting to replicate one of these crystal batteries to test out. So let me make sure that I shared this with you guys, and you can see it on my screen right now. Pauly Shore, yeah. I just remember Pauly Shore from a few of those movies back in the day, man. And I think I ran into Pauly Shore while I was listening to an episode of Kill Tony, and that's what brought me down the Pauly Shore rabbit hole. But I'm really enjoying that rabbit hole. I just need a laugh, man. It's like want to have more laughs because the world is so freaking crazy, man. So fucking crazy that I'm kind of tumbling down the. Oh shit! Oh man! Oh, don't kick me off my stream. Hang in there, hang in there. All right, sorry about that. Hopefully that doesn't kill my stream. Because I just unplugged the Ethernet. And hopefully I'm still streaming. Come on, come on, come on. Hopefully that's still working. I might have a little bit of time before that tries to kick me off or whatever. But let's see. It's probably good. I hope so. Am I still on? Am I still live? Dude, I didn't mean to unplug the Ethernet. It just kind of happened. Because I was moving a hammer and rearranging this hammer over here, and it caught the Ethernet cable. So I hope to God that it stays intact, or this stream is over. All right. Let's check this out real quick.
Parasite
crystal battery
messing up our experience.
And, I know in my, it means something very different now to me than it would have even a few years ago. And it's our free will that they've really also messed with because we've been lied to and we react based on lies. Just getting their independence and end up in civil wars for 20, 30 years. Happens a lot.
Because we keep choosing to pick up the gun and use it on ourselves instead of building and uniting and accepting that we are one people, one spirit, one harmony on one plane that together, united, can achieve anything we dream of.
So do you want to wake up, or do you want to just keep going along because the change is too difficult?
And then give them pieces of information that they will then pursue themselves and look into, and then they'll wake themselves up.
I was going to mention it's the whole red pill, blue pill of the Matrix. I mean, that of the movie. And you can consider that movie as a documentary because they're telling us something about what's happening here. So do you want to, wake up, or do you want to just keep going along because the change is too difficult? Wake up.
All right, we are live. Quite the epic panel tonight. We are blessed with the amazing, legendary John Hutchinson and his lovely, intelligent wife, Nancy Hutchinson. And they're here to share with us the crystal battery design and what is an essential step towards everybody's self-efficiency of free energy and these power cells. And if you're an electrical engineer, you understand that the battery storage capacitance is a key part to attaining free energy. And with us tonight on the panel, we have Charlie C., Mike from Faraday Research, Andreas Zerdes, Space Case Ace O. Adam, all regulars from the Year of the Coil series that we've been doing, and there might be a few others that join in. But now that we know who's here, I will let everyone take over. Say hello.
Okay, hi y'all.
How's it going? I was excited because just before the show, I was listening to Nancy explain, a lot of things in ways that, you don't hear people talk about mass in terms of the electrostatic fields and, spin state. I think that's something that people should think about in terms of resonance and consciousness. So that's something I'm so interested to hear Nancy go on. I just want to hear more of that.
Okay. Okay, so let's start with this 2,500-year-old document.
Yeah.
And it's from the Master Essenes. Now, the Jesus dude, you guys know it wasn't Jesus, but I call him the Jesus dude. And I used to be in the Christian church, and I used to teach in the Christian church. I don't have it there now, but I could quote you, chapter, verse, all that kind of stuff. So I got interested in the possibilities that the science and the religions were not at odds with each other. And I found a website called reluctant-messenger.com. And that was decades ago. And that person and I have conversed and emailed back over the years. But in that, it gave me the ability to look at this document from 2,500 years ago, and if I was trying to just break it out by definitions, then I could find a definition for, a word that they use that it actually is a word that we use in science. And in that the beginning of that statement from 2,500 years ago was, from the age of ages is the eternal thought, and the thought is the word, and the word is the act, and these three are one in God, and proceeds from God, and is with God, and nothing is created absent the law. Okay? Now, the law is the relationship of one thing to another. And I know that. I through my own self-study and stuff, won in the Supreme Court of Minnesota without an attorney. And it's all, my mentor taught me the foundations of natural law and then how that applies to the physical law, and it applies to the law of nations and blah, 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 blah. But see that all of that is the same as the harmonics. And if you have a thought, if you have every single possibility the 0 point. Okay, that's a 0 point because there's nothing happening there. It's just possibility, right? So you have every possibility, and it's in complete equilibrium with no possibility of any fucking shit. Okay, so you
We
got
live in
this.
such a lawless society, so it's interesting because when you say law, I feel like you're saying like nature or like the law of the physics. What do you mean by law? You know?
Law. The definition of law is the relationship of one thing to another. Period. Period. Whether it is civil law, whether it is religious law, whether it is statute, whether it is constitutional law, the definition of it, whether it's physics, law of physics, it the definition of law is the relationship of one thing to another. How far away are you from me? Are you smacking into me and taking my shit? You know, this is all
Interesting.
okay. It's the relationship of one thing to another, and that is what harmonics is the relationship of one thing to another. So if you've got something in complete equilibrium, there's no motion, but motion, which is it's stuck in there in the potential, okay, it's an enigma. It has to move. So it moves out of the potential into it's the firstborn that died and was resurrected. It's the Xfinity symbol on a Mobius. It went out, it came back in, and it touched itself and said, I am. Okay?
Right.
That
You had a thing that was interesting about that idea that the emergence was maybe like elemental.
yes. From the unconscious came the conscious. The age of ages is the unconscious. And that is one of the dictums, that's one of the requirements of us being in these physical bodies, that we go unconscious for a third of the time. Okay, that's a you look at that pattern. There's patterns to these systems, and that which is in a matter that the consciousness created through these harmonics cannot move that body around for more than 2/3 of time. So that's just a little
Your thought
side.
on you had this thought also on whom the Son of God was in sort of a chemical metaphor, right?
Sure, and you could call it hydrogen too.
Hydrogen.
You
Right, and that you were saying that
no,
it's the
second,
stillness that consciousness brings that 0 point energy out of, correct?
the unconscious is the 0 point where there is no motion. That's the unconscious. And the reason is it's not there. It's because it's no longer a potential. It's no longer static electricity. It isn't voltage anymore. It's amperage. So you see, motion is the amperage. That the consciousness is the amperage and the potential is the unconscious.
Okay, so from like my own studies into alchemy and the metaphysical sciences and which
Wow, that's pretty crazy. What she was just describing there is that the conscious is the motion, and the unconscious is the potential, relating it to voltage and amperage. It's pretty freaking fascinating. That's pretty interesting there. A lot of what they're talking about in here is pretty wild and out there when you kind of first listen to it. But a lot of the research that I've dove into, especially when we were looking into alternative energy technologies, can actually uh, have uh, an effect with consciousness. So So yeah, looking at some of these things is, you can kind of see how that may be a possibility that we're dealing with a plane of existence that is a lot more affected by our energy through what we're thinking in our mind and our consciousness in more ways than we realize. It has an effect on our reality. So something to think about there, and um, at a certain point in this presentation that they're doing here, it's not really a presentation, it's more of just a discussion on this topic. And so they talk about a bunch of different stuff, and kind of start getting into some of these devices and these different applications, and they bring up a video of a YouTube creator that has built a device using this it's like a crystal battery. And so he plays a video here from a YouTube creator, Laser Saber, and I'll see if I can pull that up real quick. Laser Saber, and that is this guy right here, I believe. Videos, become subscriber, and he's got a bunch of different experiments on his YouTube channel, and he plays around with different electrical experiments. So I'm not sure of the specific video that he was watching, but he's got how to build a water activated flashlight, graphene graphite atmospheric electricity collectors is very interesting to me, which is a video on his site, which I do remember watching this video. There's these guys that are collecting energy from the atmosphere and having it run down into capacitors, and then using the capacitors to run some power equipment. So yeah, let's check this out real quick. Just as a well, actually no. Let's not watch this, but to get back to the presentation from those guys. But let me share with you guys Laser Saber's channel, so you can go and subscribe to him over there, because he makes some pretty cool videos. So check that out. And let me pull back up that discussion there on Andres Exertus' channel about these crystal batteries.
And if you followed along at laserhacker.com, I've had some crystal power cells on there powering a motor and an LED for the last 2 years on a live video feed. And I've just got comment after comment with folks asking, how do you build the crystal power cells? So this video is going to go over the building of this cell. It's very simple. It's a quick build, but I just thought I'd show the process I go through when I build a crystal power cell. And these crystal power cells, the first time I saw them on a YouTube video was years ago. John Hutchison showed one running a small motor and kind of talked about them. IB Pointless 2, John Bedini, Lid Motor. A lot of us were experimenting with these a couple years ago. And then I just put some into long-term testing. I just put them on a shelf and said, let's see how these run over the next few years. And they've been doing quite well. I've been quite impressed with the duration of runtime I've gotten out of these. And I'm going to build up some more here. I'm actually going to build a larger system, but this video is going to document the building of a single cell. I'm going to build a 10-cell setup, and I'm going to get around 15 volts. And subscribe, follow along if you want to see that project. It will probably be the video after this one. So there seems to be about half a cup of alum in one of these containers. So I'm going to go ahead and use all of that. And I just want to break it up a little more in this coffee grinder so that it mixes better. It's really clumpy. But yeah, half cup of each of these ingredients. And that should be just right. Okay, so now a half cup of this no salt sodium-free substitute. And this, if you look at the ingredients, this is potassium chloride. And that's one of the main ingredients in this. So we'll put the potassium chloride in here, half a cup. That's about right.
Yeah.
Okay, so now we want to get half a cup of the borax in there. So as you can tell, these are very approximate measurements. I have not researched for a precise ratio because with a 2-year testing time and the previous cells still going, it would take a long time to really figure out the perfect ratio. But after 2 years of use, this ratio seems to be working pretty well. So I'm going to go ahead and powder up the borax at this point. And that will leave the last ingredient, which is the Epsom salt. And we'll get that in here.
Yeah, Julia. It's love. Thank you.
So half a cup.
Yeah, bro. Powder up that
Epsom
borax.
salt.
Oh, the Epsom salt, yeah. That's right.
And you can see this stuff is really granular. So we're going to have to blend this up a little more to get a good mix.
I mean, this is a lot of the same stuff that's in my Crystal Rose. Do not use your mom's
Okay,
coffee.
so that's our mix. I'm going to go ahead and put a cover over this, and we'll shake this up. We really want to mix all these ingredients together thoroughly. So.
CR Smith is alchemy. They're not supposed to be
Okay,
just...
so we got this stuff mixed up, and we're ready to actually build the crystal cell.
Anthony.
Okay, so we've got the burner on. I've got the magnesium core here ready, and we're just going to build a very simple crystal cell here. This will just be the magnesium core with a copper pipe cap. And the only difference I'm going to do is I'm going to put a spacer down here so that this magnesium core doesn't get...
Sorry, Nancy, did you want me to pause it? Did you have something that you guys wanted to say, or should I keep playing the video?
No, I wanted to say something, and this is the so basic stuff. Is that actually the thinner the amount of material, the better it works. I mean, I've gotten this thing down to a micron as far as the amount of material.
Right. I was thinking that. I'm glad that you bring that up. I was just going to look into, because I did nanotechnology with graphene, and I can imagine nanopolymers that would be perfect for this, especially the supercapacitor.
It's the sodium silicate. When you coat the sodium silicate on your screw or your whatever is your inside piece and your inside piece, you know, you're coating it with that, and then you're not going to short the thing out if you get really, really tight on it. And that's when I was talking about the last meeting we were at, that the compound that I came up with that has the viscosity to it can be then actually sprayed.
Jeremy, get in here. What?
So it can be, so that's, that's, but that's like the second step on this. The first step is, well, you can have somebody sitting there and grinding all this shit and making this and making something that's this big, but we already
No,
know
you want to grow it. See, so like, yeah, what we did in school. I mean, so there's a couple of things. Graphene, we did some laser ablation where you start with this fine graphite and then you burn it. But the best thing is when you seed it. When you seed it and you cause through electrolysis in like an ammonium sulfate solution, you have a positive negative charge and you can let it start to grow. So if you seed it in certain places, it grows in certain patterns. And then you can use like chemical vapor deposition for sputtering or something. Sputter,
Right.
yeah, and allow it to grow.
But that's like the next for my email.
Yeah.
The first step is I already know how to make these the size of a pin and get 0.3 to 1 volt off of them, but in the pico with the amps, and
Right.
so we can easily show people how to make 10 million of those, which nobody's going to do.
Yeah, so the next video in this series, Nancy, he actually connects them up in series to get a 12-volt crystal battery setup with it.
Right. I've gotten up to 12. Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, I imagine if you print it though, that would be the thing, because then you could sputter it and create a really long roll, a toilet paper roll of it.
Right. We talk about doing like 3D printing on this, but the first step is to get something that we get an outlet on, we can plug into, that we've got a really good set of plans, and people can make them themselves. Right? That's the first thing, and I think we're getting close. I mean, but some of these, like what you're showing in your video there, that's way too big. You don't need to be that big. You can get as much energy off of that thing if it was 1/10 the size.
Right. You have an equivalent charge for smaller. Yeah, absolutely. And so what would be the rule? We'd have to think about like surface area, but is it?
Right.
It's basically a surface area question, not a volume area question, right?
Right. And you can get a lot off of a sheet of copper, but one of the things about these cells is that they like to be in a cylinder, and like
Shameful, not micro, nano. Sorry.
And so they like to be in the cylinder, and they also when I form them as a sphere, they're giving off the AC and DC without me doing any radio frequencies on them. And but I don't think we go to sphere with these guys. I think we keep them over in cylinders and get them something that we all say, okay, this is a doable, workable thing, and if it can run somebody's pump as a farmer, that'd be great. Something that they can actually have something that gives them the energy, that gives them some freedom.
Right.
So, and looking at the different materials.
I liked your thought there on sodium silicate base. I think that makes a lot of sense, because the idea of growing the
So there would be an opportunity here that I see would be to start to manufacture something, some kind of crystal, one of these crystal batteries on your own, and generating some kind of battery out of it that actually worked well. So yeah, well, lithium iron phosphate is I don't believe it's quite what they're talking about, but I don't know, but I don't think that this is the same deal. Oops, I just lost the chat, and let me what? There we go. So, how do I get rid of this? Not like that. Do that, maybe? And then, can I go back here? There we go. But, guys, we are coming up on the end of the podcast. Got about 5 minutes left here, but appreciate you guys coming to hang out this week and listen to what I have to say. I hope those links and everything is something that you might look deeper into, especially with Laser Saber. Go check out that guy's channel to check out what all experiments that he's been working on. And then the rest of this episode is really fascinating, and they really had a cool discussion here on this topic. And some of the principles behind why this certain chemistry of crystal battery, some of the reasons why it's doing the thing that it's doing, and continuously able to put out energy without needing to be charged by something, is what these things are supposedly doing. And so yeah, if you listen on in this episode, they kind of talk more about how that's possible. So I will play more of this video, and then we'll end it here. And so appreciate you guys coming to hang out tonight. Really enjoyed getting to chat with you guys and share what has been on my mind, and what some things I'm recently checking out here. So hope everybody enjoys the rest of your week. You guys keep working on your own improvements, and we'll be working on mine and getting to become more self-reliant. And next week, probably look for me to be working on these lithium iron phosphate batteries, and getting them all connected with the system I have for the battery management system. And so that's one of the projects I want to accomplish this week, and be able to show you guys some of that and how that went on getting the battery management system connected to all of my new lithium iron phosphate batteries. So so that's a project that's coming up, and so look forward to that as a topic for next week's episode, and something to look into. I'm gonna try to film some of that so that there's kind of an instructional on if somebody wanted to do that themselves. So yeah, I will be filming some of that stuff, and gonna bring that to you guys for the next one. So thank you guys for hanging out with me tonight. We got El Gecko and Rondon, Crimson Clad, and Gabriel hanging out, and JP was with us for a little while there, and Uncle Bonehead. Thank you guys for hanging out with me tonight and listening to what I have to say. So you guys have a wonderful week, and enjoy the rest of y'all's week, and live a great life, and keep pushing for a better future for those next generations to come. So, and go buy the book One Nation Under Blackmail by Whitney Webb. She wrote these two books that I'm going to be diving into here, volume 1 and 2, and I'll report back to you what I'm researching in these books, in what I find pretty cool to talk about. So look forward to that as well. So again, thank you guys, and enjoy the rest of your week. Peace.